You've spent the whole day being pleasant. You smiled at the right moments, asked the right questions, laughed when a laugh was expected, and now you're home, sitting in the dark of your own living room, and you feel hollow, not just tired, hollow, like something has been pulled out of you and handed around the dinner table without your permission. Your jaw aches from holding a gentle expression. Your shoulders are still slightly raised, as if bracing for the next question, the next memory, the next moment. You'd have to perform being okay. And the people you were just with, they're probably still awake, still talking, still laughing, still fine. They don't seem to carry the weight of the last 4 hours the way you do. They didn't leave early. They didn't need to sit in the car for 10 minutes before starting the engine. They didn't come home and stand in the kitchen, not hungry, not thirsty, just empty. You've tried to be different. You've told yourself to relax, to let things go, to stop analyzing every undertone and unspoken tension, but it hasn't worked. Because you're not overthinking for sport. You're processing a room full of emotional information that no one else seems to notice exists, and it has exhausted you in a way that's hard to explain to someone who hasn't felt it. This isn't the tiredness of a long day. This is the tiredness of being emotionally exposed, socially vigilant, and silently responsible for everyone else's comfort, while no one was responsible for yours. You've wondered if something is wrong with you, if you're too sensitive, too reactive, too much, if everyone else has figured out how to do family without this aftermath, and you somehow missed the lesson. But what if the exhaustion isn't a sign that you're broken? What if it's a sign that you've been working in a way no one has acknowledged? The frustrating part is that you already know something is different. You've felt it for years. You walk into a room full of people you have known your entire life. People who share your blood, your history, your last name. And within minutes, you're scanning. You're reading the air. You notice the slight pause before your uncle answers a question. You catch the way your cousin's laugh doesn't quite reach her eyes. You feel the temperature shift when someone mentions a topic everyone agreed to avoid. And you can't stop. You can't turn it off. You absorb the emotional weather of the room the way other people absorb the temperature outside. Without effort, without choice, without anyone ever asking if you wanted to. And here's the contradiction that has probably haunted you the most. You're the one who notices everything, but you're also the one who leaves feeling like you gave away too much. You saw what everyone needed, the validation, the distraction, the careful deflection, and you provided it. You smoothed things over. You kept the peace. You made sure no one felt uncomfortable. But no one did the same for you. No one asked if you were okay. No one noticed that you stopped talking halfway through dinner. No one saw you retreat into yourself, because the room was too loud, too layered, too much, and you couldn't say anything because saying something would have broken the spell. It would have made you the problem. This is the tension that has followed you from every family event you can remember. You are hyper-aware of others and completely invisible in return. And it has cost you. It has cost you energy, yes. But it has also cost you the belief that you're normal, that you function the way other people function, that you belong in the very rooms you were raised in. But here's what no one told you, and what you may have never considered. This isn't a sensitivity problem. It's not a flaw in your emotional wiring. It's a processing difference, and it has a name, a mechanism, and a reason it showed up in your life, exactly when it did. Psychologists sometimes call it high sensory processing sensitivity. It's not a disorder. It's not a diagnosis. It's a trait, one that roughly 20 to 30% of people carry. And it means your nervous system takes in more information from your environment than most people's do. Not just emotional cues. Subtle shifts in tone, in expression, in the energy between two people who aren't even speaking. You're not imagining these things. You're registering them while other people are talking about the weather or the food. You are processing a room full of unspoken dynamics, relational history, and emotional safety calculations. And that takes energy. Real energy. The kind that leaves you hollow hours later. But here's what makes this more interesting and more painful. This doesn't just affect how you feel in the moment. It shapes how you remember family. It shapes how you make decisions about who to trust. It shapes why certain relationships have always felt harder than they should, even with people who love you, because you're not just processing the room. You're processing what the room has always been, and that changes everything. You've spent years wondering why you're the only one who leaves family gatherings feeling like you have run a marathon in a room full of people sitting still. And the answer isn't that you're too sensitive. It isn't that you're broken. It's that your nervous system is doing something different from theirs, something that makes perfect sense once you understand what it's actually doing. Let's start with the first mechanism. Emotional labor without reciprocity. This is the quiet work you've been doing your entire life without ever being paid back. Emotional labor is the invisible effort of managing other people's feelings, smoothing over awkward silences, redirecting conversations away from conflict, smiling when you don't feel like smiling, asking the right questions to make someone else feel seen. And you've gotten very good at it. You learned early that if you could read the room, you could protect yourself and protect others. You became the family's emotional weather forecaster. Not because you wanted the job, but because no one else was doing it. And someone had to. But here's what no one tells you about emotional labor. It only drains you when it's one way. When you give and give and give, and no one gives back to you. And that's exactly what's been happening at every family gathering. You've been holding the emotional container for everyone else, making sure your aunt feels heard, making sure your brother doesn't feel attacked, making sure the dinner table stays calm, while no one holds the container for you. You leave empty because you spent the entire day pouring out, and no one poured anything back in. And that's why you've always felt hollow afterward. Not because you care too much, but because you have been doing the work of two people in a room where no one noticed you were working at all. But that's only part of it, because this mechanism doesn't just affect how you feel in the moment. It also changes what you reach for when things get hard. And for many people like you, what you reach for is something psychologists call self-monitoring. Self-monitoring is the habit of constantly adjusting your behavior based on what you think others expect from you. It's the voice in your head that says, "Don't say that. It'll make things awkward," or "Laugh now, even if you don't find it funny," or "Pretend you're fine, because if you show how you really feel, you'll ruin the evening." And for someone with high sensory processing sensitivity, self-monitoring becomes automatic. You don't choose to do it. You just do it. Because you've learned that if you don't manage yourself, the room becomes unstable. But self-monitoring is exhausting in a way that's hard to describe to someone who doesn't do it. It's not just being polite. It's being constantly aware of your own face, your own voice, your own posture, your own breathing, and adjusting all of it in real time to match what the room needs from you. By the time you get home, you're not just tired. You're disconnected from yourself. You've spent so long being what everyone else needed that you don't even remember who you were when you walked in the door. If this is the kind of thing you've spent years wondering about, subscribe. Every week we find the reason behind feelings like this one. And here's where it gets deeper, because self-monitoring doesn't just exhaust you in the moment. It also creates a second, more hidden cost: identity suppression. Identity suppression is what happens when you consistently hide parts of yourself to keep the peace. You don't share your real opinion because it might cause conflict. You don't show your exhaustion because it might worry someone. You don't express your sadness or frustration because it might make the evening about you. Over time, you learn to suppress not just your reactions, but your needs. You stop knowing what you actually want because you've spent so long only wanting what keeps the room comfortable. And this is why the hollow feeling doesn't go away after one night. It accumulates. Every family gathering where you suppressed yourself adds another layer of distance between who you really are and who you show up as. You leave not just drained, but slightly less yourself. And that's the real reason you need to sit in the car for 10 minutes before starting the engine. You're not just recovering from the evening. You're trying to remember who you were before you walked in. So here's what you now know. The exhaustion isn't a sign that you're too sensitive. It's a sign that you've been doing emotional labor without reciprocity, self-monitoring without reciprocity, self-monitoring without relief, and identity suppression without anyone noticing. And all of that has a reason. It showed up because you were the one in the room who could feel what others couldn't. And you used that ability to protect everyone, including yourself, from the discomfort no one else was willing to name. You now understand why you feel this way. But understanding isn't the same as release. And that's where we go next. Now that you understand why this happens, you can stop treating it as evidence that something is wrong with you. The hollow feeling after a family gathering isn't a flaw in your design. It's the natural result of a nervous system that was doing important work. Work that no one else in that room was doing. And work that no one acknowledged. You weren't too sensitive. You were just never given the right explanation for what you were actually experiencing. This changes things. Not because it makes the exhaustion disappear overnight. It won't. But because it means you can stop asking yourself what's wrong with you and start asking yourself what you actually need. Maybe it's a shorter visit next time. Maybe it's permission to step outside for 5 minutes without explaining yourself. Maybe it's the quiet understanding that you're allowed to protect your energy without apologizing for it. Because the people who love you may never see the work you're doing, but now you see it. And that means you can stop expecting yourself to function like someone who wasn't working at all. And if there's a reason for this exhaustion, there's probably a reason for why certain family members have always felt harder to be around than others, even when they've never done anything obviously wrong. That's a question worth sitting with, and one we'll explore together soon.